Hey Claire, um, the whole point of just chatting is just chatting. Sam, I didn't expect you to join.
Sorry, one second, getting my audio settings all cleaned up. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep. All right. Good. Oh, sorry, I gotta mute the YouTube or else I hear myself. How you doing, man?
Meh.
How's meh?
What do you mean? How's meh?
How's meh?
Uh, I wish, I wish I could say I was surprised.
All right. So you said, are you going to address what happened in Germany or just ignore it? Right. And you said this in a YouTube comment. Was on one of Paul's recent videos.
Today's video.
All right. And then Paul replied to you, what happened in Germany was that we had a great conference, nothing more. I was there. It's unclear to know whether there was ever much of a threat of any pushback to begin with. Drumming up parasitic drama is a distraction.
Yes, I'm a drama queen.
A parasitic drama queen.
Okay. I mean, if that's what he see, this is the reason I left. I left the This is why I left the Discord because it's like, oh, you're drumming up drama. You're making problems, and it's like, I'm not making problems. If you think I am the source of the problems here, like if you think I am the cause, then let me let me allow you to go about your business without the distraction of some troublemaker like me.
All right. So we should talk. That's why I'm here. I'm not ready to let you just haul up and leave yet.
Why? I'm a troublemaker.
No, well, yes, but you're a symbiotic troublemaker, not a parasitic troublemaker.
Symbiotic troublemaker. Look, if if he thinks, and he does, that nothing happened in Germany which needs to be commented on, he can try. Like, you can't help somebody who doesn't want help, and it's a waste of time for me to try to convince him that what really happened was that there was damage to the community. He doesn't think there was damage to the community, and he doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't want to hear it from people aren't who are just signaling it. He certainly doesn't want to hear it from the people who aren't going up to him and talking to him. Like, it's not me he should be talking to. I'm not the one who is hurt.
So I haven't kept super abreast of the situation, nor have I listened to your videos yet, but I've heard plenty of secondhand stuff, I guess. And I
Yeah,
am tech.
lots of people are talking about it, despite the fact lots of not a lot of people watch my videos, which should give you some idea about whether I am drumming things up or I am giving voice to something real.
Both
And
could be true. Both could be
no,
true.
no, 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 no. See that? No, no. Um, there. If I was drumming things up, first of all, I would need to be on the server. Hey, Bazani. I would need to be on the server to drum things up. Ask anybody if I've been drumming things up. There are 8 watchers right now. guess what? I'm not drumming anything up.
Well, I shared some links, so
Oh,
I'll take
all your
credit for
fault.
this drumming.
I'm not drumming anything up. I am not drumming anything up. I am, and it's not about me. The damage was done to the community before I've even heard about it.
So, articulate to me what you think this damage is as clearly and best as you can.
Okay, so this community was supposed to be a safe area for people to congregate and express their views. When
I'm perfectly on board with that so far.
when people came after Paul Vanderklay, and he doesn't seem to realize that people came after him. When people came after Paul Vanderklay and attacked members of our community, and they did attack.
What do we mean by attack? What do you mean by attack? Be very precise with your words.
Let me bring up the document. I mean,
The document.
the BOM German Festival official statement .pdf. Anybody who needs a copy of this PDF, I can send it to you. In fact, why don't I put it up on the screen? Ta-da! I have to actually put it onto the screen. And let me make it nice and big so people can read it. Important update about the Bridges of Meaning Festival. We know this announcement is a bit lengthy, but we've had some unexpected developments unfold with our event that we'd like to disclose. We appreciate your patience in advance. It's been a busy week for our event coordination team, as last week, the owner of the Suttstern Community Center contacted us saying activists from their community had sent him a list of complaints. Is that clear enough?
Yep.
Tell him, Jacob.
So,
Hi, Shane.
I should be at least. So I am on the admin server, right, of Bomb.
You poor thing.
So originally I was invited to that server because in leading up to Joey's stepping down, I was then put in charge of the Chicago Bomb server, right? There's a specific Chicago server. And Joey had previously been the sole admin of that because he made it for us. And so he was passing that baton to me. So I originally understood that I was only going to be the admin of the Chicago server, right? Makes perfect sense. Fine. Apparently, he also, in some last act of before leaving, anointed me with the fragrant oil of adminhood for the general bomb server. So I have, fancy green letters for the general bomb server, which I didn't ask for, and honestly was a little surprised to get. I'm not complaining. I'm saying I get it, I guess, and I trust Joey. Although I kind of wanted to keep black letters so that I could say whatever I want and not be treated differently, right? And not have people be like, oh, I have to watch how I interact with Sam or he'll hammer me. For the record, I've never used my bomb admin privileges in any respect, but I will acknowledge that. So I have been privy to the discussions on the admin server, which was where a lot of it was discussed on how to deal with this.
which
But
is a problem.
yes, yes, maybe no. I mean, I do think you and I are both in favor of hierarchy in some sense and leadership in some sense. But that doesn't mean that there isn't better or worse forms of hierarchy and how the hierarchy should represent and act on behalf of those who are not in the hierarchy.
Hold on. Part of having a hierarchy is people understanding how that hierarchy works and having proper expectations. That's why you need a constitution. That's why you need to stop being so effing Protestant like Paul is.
Well, I'm not going to stop being a Protestant yet, but I kind of know what you mean. I mean, I think that currently the way that bomb operates is that it doesn't have constitutions, doesn't have rules and stuff like that, and that it relies upon the judgment, of the admins,
It
which is
was
not
Joey,
unusual.
it was Joey's private monarchy, and
It
he
was
was
Joey's private monarchy, and part of the problem is that this whole German thing happened right at the same time as Joey's transition of
and I
leadership.
think that was deliberate.
By Antifa or by Joey, or who do you mean deliberate? What do you mean by deliberate?
By Antifa. Again, we don't know exactly who was involved. Uh, Jeff says this should be discussed from midnight to 6 a.m. around a campfire somewhere in Arkansas.
Probably with sufficient alcoholic beverages provided. Um, so I and then also simultaneous to this was the decisions to whether or not let basically Jeremiah and perhaps maybe some other people on that list of banned people back in or not, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that was specifically a question because Joey had left, right? And so then it left open the question of whether some decisions made by Joey could be reversed. Um, and I think that those two, the German Antifa thing, which honestly I think you are over attributing agency to Antifa in this situation. I really think that this German commune had a couple probably teenage or 20-year-old hippies uh, who were basically, I don't know,
CW was saying the
agitating.
exact same thing. CW was saying the exact same thing.
But what if it's true though, Jacob? What if
No,
that is
but
the case?
Sam, but Sam,
But
it
Weinstein's,
ultimately,
but ultimate,
Sam,
global conspiracy. But.
Sam,
All right, I'll
Sam,
let you talk. But
it doesn't have to be a global conspiracy. It has to be method that actually works. And it is a method that actually works, which is they were attacking Paul Vanderklay. They were not, they were, nobody
it
went,
seems
and
like
I
their
said
main
this to
complaints
CW,
were against Burns
Burn,
content
yeah.
and then perhaps it's kind of unclear where Chad the Alcoholic's content fell into this. But
It,
honestly, I think
it
that
was
the main
blasphemy
complaint was with some Byrne stuff, and that being the most
because they
relevant
were
because Byrne was one of the speakers at the conference.
no, no. See, that's the thing.
I'm not criticizing Burns content at all, for the record.
No, no, no. It's beside the point. It's beside.
It's pretty relevant to the point, in my
No,
opinion.
see, this is the thing, Sam. This is what you're not getting. The whoever it was wasn't attacking Byrne. They were using Byrne to attack Paul.
I think that they were using the opportunity. I think that it was a small handful of individuals that had some connection to the German place that were trying to exercise some amount of authority in that German community
This
to
is speculation.
cancel. Well, it's not uninformed speculation. All right.
But okay, you know what?
I mean, I am
Then
privy to a
maybe
fair
then
amount
maybe
of the
then
information of
maybe
what happened.
Paul then maybe Paul needs to have this conversation with the people who are not the drama queens that I am, but the people who feel hurt.
Well, for the record, I think that Paul should talk to you, and I think that you're chief on the list of people who feel hurt. And I'm not saying that you don't have any reason
No,
to feel hurt.
I don't feel hurt. I am disappointed. I don't feel hurt.
Well, disappointed and hurt are pretty close feelings.
Look, that when it comes down to it, unfortunately, I'm almost not even disappointed.
Well, I think that you are over exaggerating what happened and any sense of capitulation of Bomb to the Antifa people, because at the end of the day, Bomb got everything that it wanted.
Everything that it wanted?
Yes. It got to have its festival. It didn't change anything.
It didn't change anything.
All right. Well, I am open to counter evidence to that point.
Where was the thing I quoted? Because of this, he and his community have collectively decided that we could still run the event, but that the event would no longer be in official partnership with the Sud Stern as planned, and they would no longer be willing to speak at the event. So tell me nothing changed.
I'm not saying nothing changed, because you're right. That sentence is true. I'm saying that Bomb got everything that it wanted, though. We lost our Pope. Yeah, that's a little bit true. We didn't send up smoke, though, from the chimneys of whatever color you're supposed to send up smoke. Let's see here. Claire
Forget
doesn't know who
Claire.
I am. I'll forget
No,
Claire.
she
Fine.
knows. Forget Claire. Claire is just an internet troll.
If Claire doesn't know who I am, then why the heck is she spamming my Discord inbox? Thanks a lot, Claire. Go away.
Because Claire works for George Soros.
All right. Well, go away, George Soros. Leave my Discord inbox alone. There's nothing more disappointing than seeing that you have notifications on Discord that you're excited to read, only to have them be stupid spam messages from George Soros / Claire. Talk about disappointment. That's what disappointment is. And I'll talk about disappointment some more. Jacob, I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you around.
What's the point?
Because you're fun to have around and you have important contributions.
Apparently not. Apparently I'm just a drama queen.
Well, it doesn't mean that you aren't a drama queen sometimes, but part of your importance is that you're willing to be a drama queen sometimes. You know, drama queens aren't unhelpful members of the community.
I think in a somewhat similar manner as the Pope Chad, the fact is that the people on BOM, there's a lot of lurkers. There's a lot of people who are speaking. Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
Great. Great to be here in this argument that you've been having for weeks now. But I agreed with you about everything. Sorry, while I'm figuring out. Okay.
You're beautiful, especially that 10-year beard.
It's a good beard.
Thank you.
Hi, Michael. I've seen you around and we've interacted a little bit, but we've never been on a video together.
Yes, it's a pleasure. I've watched many hours of your show while I work. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Michael's a Trinitarian. God have mercy on his soul.
This is part of why I need you around for, Jacob.
To warn you about the Trinitarians?
To be my bulldog against Trinitarians, and two, Yosef is way overwhelmed with Hebrew questions. He's drowning in Hebrew and Judaism questions, and he needs support.
Well,
Come back.
Platform
Come
is
back is what I'm
Um,
saying. Disappointments, complaints, dramatic queenship, and all. Come back.
Oh, you really should watch my Bible study from last night. We spent the whole time dunking on Trinitarians.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I was dunking.
Look, the main reason I got involved in this community was when I left Eric Weinstein's um, Discord community, in fact, um, which was in fact destroyed by similar action, which I've been warning BOM of, and I, I've been warning Paul Vanderklay of, and
But
relational aggression is real, and that's what happened to us. They
but who's
attacked.
to say that we can't get better, learn from mistakes? We could disagree on the
Oh, we can learn
scale
from
and
our
severity
mistakes,
of
but that's not
mistakes.
that. But what I saw from Paul was not he dismissed me as drumming up drama. If that's he doesn't think there was a mistake. He thinks I'm the problem. And if I'm the problem, I will cease being a problem.
I don't think you're a problem, Jacob.
Thank you.
Can you cause problems? Yes. Do you sometimes behave in ways that I think are ill-advised and counterproductive? Yes. But that's true of all of us at various times in various
Look,
places, and that's part of what a community of people is.
So Chris, you should jump on here. Are we recognizing there was a mistake? I thought BOM got everything they wanted.
I think BOM got everything they wanted, but there were still mistakes. And we have to remember the main people who are handling this were pretty young. This was their first such dust
I
up.
do not blame either of the people whose names I will not mention, because I don't think that was the problem. Our Discord bans like excommunications.
Hopefully not.
Look, um, the fact is, when it comes down to Joey's ways of running the Discord, I had my disagreements with him, but he was competent and it was obvious and there was an actual structure.
He was also a little bit older than many of the people who got the baton passed to them after he
I
left.
don't know Dennis at all.
I don't know Dennis as well as I wish that I did.
It doesn't matter. It's not about Dennis personally. Unfortunately, it's become very, very clear he's not competent to do the job that Joey was doing.
I think incompetence is only being unable to learn and grow from your mistakes. And I think that he is.
I am
learned a
not
lot
going
from
to
this.
criticize Dennis in his absence. I will just say, yes, I agree with you, and I think he's not competent to maintain the position he's in.
You see, Jacob, I feel like you're treating this situation like Antifa is like some source of uncleanness. And any small failure to completely confront Antifa perfectly the first time makes you ever thereafter unclean or something like that.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I was expecting an attack. I was warning of an attack. I think we did have an attack, and my problem is solely in the idea that, oh, there was no attack, everything's fine, nothing happened. That's simply not true.
I think that you do over exaggerate the scale of what happened, but I do think it is incorrect to say nothing happened. And Paul's comment was unusually dismissive by Paul standards, I'll say that.
Paul doesn't want to deal with this.
That might be true.
Paul doesn't want to deal with this. Rick doesn't want to deal with this. A lot of people don't want to deal with this. That's why they're not talking to Chad. By the way, the person who they should be talking to, but he's also the person who's not going to go around complaining. And it's actually not his place to go around complaining, because that's not how we work in a Christian society.
Right. And I think that Chad has handled himself pretty well. I will
Chad,
say I was
Chad
doing
has,
my best to. You don't know everything, Jacob. I was
I
doing my best to intermediate with Chad as quickly and as soon as possible.
it's look, the fact is, you think he's exaggerating because BOM capitulated to the mob so quickly it went unnoticed. Paul responded briefly in a comment to his latest video.
I could read that again if you want, Jacob. Jacob, so this is, I assume that's Jeff behind Randos United.
Jeff. Yeah.
So, Jacob posted on Paul's video today, "Are you going to address what happened in Germany or just ignore it?" And then Paul responded, "What happened in Germany was that we had a great conference, nothing more. I was there. It's unclear to know whether there was ever much threat of any pushback to begin with. Drumming up parasitic drama is a distraction." I wish that you would talk to Paul. I wish that Paul would talk to you.
I'm available. Paul knows I'm available. I've made that clear to him. I am perfectly willing to, but he thinks that I am the source of the problem. And if he thinks I am the source of the problem, then
I think you are the source of some problems, but you are not the source of the problem. And I think that I've been the source of problems in the past. And for the record, Chris, we need you around too. You can't leave either. I forbid you from being excommunicated. I forbid you from leaving. We need you back, Chris.
Look,
you're the only person who's ever made a music video of me saying something, which actually maybe Chad has, so I forget. But
it's not gaslighting. It is not gaslighting. It's a failure to see the problem, and frankly, like, I can't deal with constantly watching slow motion train crashes. I can't deal with it. I can't be Cassandra. I can't constantly be saying, hey, look, things are just going to progress this way if we don't do something different. There needs to be communication to get excommunicated.
For the record, Chris, I completely agree with that. As someone who has been excommunicated with too little communication multiple times in my life, you're absolutely right, Chris. I am on record on the Discord server multiple times saying that the only people who should be allowed to ever excommunicate anyone should be someone who's already been excommunicated and reconciled themselves. They're the only people who truly understand the power of that. I know it's a little bit of an unreasonable thing in practice, but I stand by the spirit of that rule.
Well, if you would just throw Paul under the bus like I do, then you wouldn't have to worry about it.
I'm not throwing anybody under the bus completely. I'm just like saying
even Paul of Tarsus. Come on, he deserves it. Michael, say something. You're a wise man.
Well, I mean, I appreciate the vigor that you have towards this situation, because I mean, to me, you know, I don't spend a lot of time on Bridges of Meaning, just because, like, by the time I joined, it was already so massive that, like, and I don't really have like my own, like, pressing. I don't have my own meaning crisis that I needed it for to, like, help. I'm just more or less think that this whole thing that's happening is interesting. But as I had shared in my private video, I think that there's a lot of, like, Midwestern niceness that's going around, and
guilty.
Yeah. And
your private video, I just noticed that I messaged you and asked you if I could use it. and I actually probably should just play your private video because despite your quietness, you're actually a wise person, or maybe that's because of your quietness.
Well,
I
even a fool seems wise when he is silent. So
yeah.
Best not
Well,
speak and open your mouth and dispel any
and
misconceptions.
but look, there's a reason why I designate certain people as B'nai Elohim on my server because
What's my
and so
designation again? Have I been
B'nai
de-designated?
Elohim,
I'm that. All right.
you are B'nai Elohim.
All
You
right.
are
Well, with whatever authority is that gives me to you. Come back.
to Bridges of Meaning.
Yes,
What's the point?
you're helpful and you're needed, and you have good interactions, and it helps you.
Paul doesn't seem to think I'm helpful, and look, the thing is, I'm not going to invest in a community that's a slow motion train wreck.
I'm not sure that's a little harsh. That's a little harsh.
Partially because I look. Here, I'll read to you what I wrote to Yosef. I'll only read what I wrote and not what he wrote back. Obviously, he doesn't agree with me, but where did I write it? I'm trying to think what. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'll just say what I did say is, frankly, I think we're hanging around 1928 Germany in where our society is. I think the patterns are clear to people who studied what happened in Weimar Germany. The patterns are a lot more clear than people would like. And I don't make Holocaust allusions lightly. I'm 100% serious about this. I think, and part of the reason I joined this community,
you don't make Holocaust.
Hold on. One of the reasons I joined this community was when I watched the Kathy Newman interview, and and she said to Jordan Peterson, "You're comparing these people to Chairman Mao. Isn't that frivolous? Aren't you just saying it to be controversial?" He stood up and said no, and I thought that people in this community would be the type of person who believes that Jordan Peterson isn't being silly when he makes allusions to Chairman Mao. Go ahead.
You see, this is kind of similar to what I already said. I feel like you feel like we had our first real battle or real chance to fight the real enemy, that we failed in some sense, and therefore the whole thing's gone to pot. Or
we did the only thing that we could not do, which is act precisely like normies. We responded to the situation exactly as a normie community would, which doesn't work. You can certainly read whatever bit from that conversation. Yeah, I was looking at it. It really wasn't.
Fragmented Dude Person is Chad's YouTube name, right?
Yeah. Fragmented Dude is Chad. Yes. Yeah, there's like more people watching this than basically any stream I've ever
had. I think that the thing about like, oh, this was the first real opportunity fight. I mean, I had not previously thought of like that on a communal level at all. I mean, I know on my own channel, I decided like I'm going to try to say like I'm not going to try to be politically correct or anything like that. I'm going to say all the offensive things I want, but I think Paul had mentioned this somewhere, but by doing it from exclusively the religious point of view of like I'm upholding Christian thought, you know, like I can still say Donald Trump's an immoral person and agree with like a lot of stuff that conservatives agree with, you know, because it's based in the Bible. Like that, I'm doing that in a sense, trying to push the limits of what these things are, because a lot of the people that are purely approaching this as like a political thing, they do lots of really offensive things, but there has not been people who are acting in a respectful, godly way and saying things that are offensive to the powers in this world, that have really received much direct persecution. But I think that, I don't know, I think you do kind of have to push the boundaries a little bit with this stuff, like, because they are not trying to respectfully coexist with anybody that they disagree with. So
Chris says it wasn't an opportunity to fight. It was just an opportunity to not completely capitulate and give in. And look, if I wanted just to fight, then what I would have done and what I'm considering doing is pitch in with the people who are absolutely anti-woke, full in James Lindsay types, right? And I could do that. It's complicated, Jeff, but ultimately just the appearance of asking Chad to change his channel in response to what happened, I don't actually think that's what a lot of people are worried about. I actually think the fact that we let the Sudstern Community Center besmirch our reputation in that community was bad enough. And it's actually what I care about more. But the reason I'm involved in this community is I wanted a community like this, which isn't political, to be able to actually to be able to function in a principled and real manner, saying, hey, you know what? No, we're not political. In fact, if we were political, a lot of the members of our community are leftists and Democrats. And look, let's face it, I'm actually a leftist. Despite the fact that I'm now squarely in the Republican Party, it's because I am actually a leftist. That's what I realized as part of this community, right?
And Jacob, this is why we need you back. I think that there is a spectrum of alarm to this situation, and there is also a spectrum within people of how sensitive to threat and alarm they are. And it's pretty much neuroticism, but some people are very sensitive to threat and yell wolf a lot. They might have a fair number of false positives, but they're also probably the first person to spot the wolf. There are some people who basically never shout wolf and are in danger of not noticing wolves when they exist, right? And there's probably a bell curve of that. I would say you're at a pretty far extreme of the bell curve, Jacob, and I do not mean that as any sort of insult. I'm just trying to describe you. I'm probably in the other direction.
No, I agree with you. I think of myself as a guard dog for this community.
Right. And I think of myself as a chill, Midwestern, nice, don't overreact sort of person. But we need both of us, Jacob, to know how to act correctly, because I am probably insufficiently threat sensitive.
Okay.
And I need you around to be more threat sensitive than I am naturally.
Sam, you as
Is there a
somebody,
spectrum of cowardice, Chris? Yes, probably that too. But cowardice is useful sometimes. Cowardice can come in handy. Go ahead, Jacob.
Sam, Mr. Statistician.
Yeah, bell curves, statistics, bell curves.
Yes, please tell me what the results of what tail distribution events that are catastrophic should mean to whether or not you talk about a risk neutral median, or whether you actually spend a lot of your resources focusing on catastrophic low occurrence events.
I completely agree with that, Jacob. Hey,
Of
Jacob,
course, because you know the math.
Yeah, well, let me compliment you a little bit more if you don't mind. So I think that precisely why we need you around is I think it is a fair point that the people who are making the decisions in this circumstance could have acted with some more backbone than they did. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But I think it's a perfectly valid point to make, and is a point that the people who made that decision need to be exposed to hearing. Whether or not it's true in the final analysis, I think it's a perfectly valid point. And if you're not around, then we have fewer people saying, stand up tall with your shoulders back and grow a spine and speak to these people the way they deserve.
But Sam, if I become the drama queen when I say these things, and that is precisely what I was accused of the second time when I came back. That's why I left the second time. And that's what Paul Vanderklay, who's the leader of this community, whether he likes it or not, accused me of in public.
Well, then grow a spine. Don't leave. Fight back.
I'm the one who needs to grow a spine.
Maybe in this particular circumstance, you need to defend yourself a little bit more than you are.
No. See, that's the thing. If it becomes about me, then this is not the community I want to be a member of. I left an online community of friends of 30 years because this was what was happening. They've been my friends, and they still are. I love them dearly. They're my best friends.
How do you expect this community to course correct if you're not around?
They will course correct more if I'm not around, in recognizing, hey, it's not Jacob that's causing this. This is something that's happening despite that's actually happening that we need to recognize, as opposed to saying no, that's Jacob and then dismissing me. Hello, Chad.
Hey there. Can you hear me?
What do you have to say for yourself, you troublemaker?
I don't know. Somebody was saying that a couple people have said this, that Joey had asked me early on to change my channel name, and that never happened. So I think that's weird. I mean,
yeah,
if you would have, I would have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And frankly, I'm not exactly sure what exactly is going on, because the person I heard it from is very reliable, and he told me he heard it from Joey himself. And I'm just thinking Joey may be confusing you with somebody else.
No, I know. It is what it is. Because I started the channel as it was supposed to be a hub. Like, that's really what it was supposed to be, a place where you can go to the hub and then find your channel and anybody else's channel who is connected. Like, I had Quality Existence, all the channels on there, plus a bunch of links to audiobooks. And so that's what it was. And if I'm roboting, it's because I'm driving in the country. But that's what the name of that's what the whole point of the channel was. It was supposed to be and the only reason why I started making content for the channel was because I wanted to be able to get people to get to that channel. And then it turned into a channel that makes content. So like if you go there, you'll see there's all these playlists and stuff.
Chad,
And probably
there's no reason for you to defend yourself. You are a member of this community just like anybody else. We claim to be totally Protestant, beyond Protestant. And if it wasn't you, they would have found somebody else to attack, because it's not like you were the irritant which caused them to attack. They were looking for an excuse, and they chose you as their best excuse.
Well, I
And
do think
the
that they
normie
did find
reaction-
Chad because they were searching for bridges of meaning. That if there's any truth to
Yeah.
why Chad was asked to change his channel name, it's because it made it easier for
Oh,
slackers, people scrounging the internet for bad material to find.
if they had found my channel, I'm sure they would have been their complaints would have been about me as opposed to
If they had found
Chad.
my channel, I'm sure they would have got bored of me talking about the church fathers and given up after 10 minutes.
I'm not so sure. They may have actually pounded on your Unitarianness. They were looking for a way of attacking us. They were looking for a way of attacking us. And what you do in that situation is circle the wagons. You don't go along with their complaints as if they're honest complaints. They're not.
You know, I think that you're right, Jacob, that there wasn't enough wagon circling. And that I completely agree that people like Chad felt like they were being treated like they were outside the Cool Kids Club, and the Cool Kids Club was protecting their own behind.
The Cool Kids Club wasn't even protecting their own behind. Ultimately, the actual response to the accusations should have been, "What the hell are you talking about? Like, how dare you?" But when people make accusations, right? Consider yourself a normie. You don't know X. Y comes and tells you, "Hey, X is this extremist." And as opposed to X being like, "What the hell are you talking about? This is slander," and being righteously indignant at being called, right? If somebody comes and calls me a racist, if I'm like, I'm sorry, then what people who don't know me are going to say is, he is a racist.
But Jacob, I think you're still not addressing my point well enough of you have to let people learn and grow. Like you're saying, you know, even if everything that you say is true, which I don't think it totally is, but even if it is, what's that to mean that you're doing the right thing in response?
Okay, what I am doing, what I tried to do was give the community a chance to address this, and without trying as much as possible not to make it about me and not about Chad and not about certain other people I could name that I haven't been, right? I am trying to allow the community to actually have a conversation and a process of correction. And you saw the response I got from Paul.
Okay, then push back on Paul or try and talk to Paul.
No, Paul is the leader of this community. There's no pushing back. There's no me pushing back on it.
I don't think Paul. I mean, I think we should let Paul be Paul, because, I mean, I understand, because, you know, there's been some times I've noticed, like, if he says something and I'm critical of it, like in a comment or whatever, he just like ghosts those comments, you know, like that's not his jam, you know, the online battles. And that's why he has appealed to the people that he does, I think, you know, because anybody can talk to him, you know, if you're and you know, so, you know, I'm sure, and it's not to say that he doesn't ever stand up for things that he believes in, you know, but I don't think that he needs to be the one. I mean, I think that in the sense of like circling the wagons, we do maybe need to others need to come around so that he can keep being super approachable Paul Vanderklay, and
Look,
other people can nip these things in the
Paul-
bud when they happen.
Paul can be as cruciform as he likes. That's why we love him. And this was actually why I made my video, Jewish Jesus versus Pauline Jesus, right? Because the Jewish Jesus saw John the Baptist being murdered, and he was willing to also be murdered. Whereas the Pauline Jesus, the God Jesus, was God and saw John the Baptist being murdered and did nothing. And if that's
Paul doesn't think Jesus was God, and you know that, Jacob.
Well, by Paul, I wasn't necessarily talking about Paul of Tarsus.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think anybody during the time of Jesus thought Jesus had the power to resurrect John the Baptist, or he would have, or they would have demanded it. But this is Trinitarian Jesus. The Trinitarian Jesus is capable of resurrecting John the Baptist, is capable of defeating the Romans, and he deliberately doesn't do it. And that's not acceptable, because when you're leader of the flock, you need to stand up for your flock. You're the shepherd. Your flock is being
My only concern
attacked.
is that Paul still likes me. That's all I really care about.
Well,
You guys
Well,
hear
Jacob,
me?
Yeah, but
do
I
you
mean-
care about if Paul still likes you?
Paul likes me. Paul likes everybody. Paul has unconditional love for his enemies. He just doesn't know who his enemies are.
well,
Is this
yeah, I don't know.
working?
I just think expecting him to, like, I don't know. Well, what would you have liked him to have done if you could have seen him do something about this?
I would have liked him to respond to the attacks on Chad and Byrne by saying to Sootstern, this isn't about Chad or Byrne. This is people who don't like me. And if they don't like me, they can attack me. But I am not going to disassociate. I'm not going to condemn anybody. This is an event where lots of people are invited, and if Donald Trump himself wanted to attend, we would gladly have him. And if it's not a community where Donald Trump can attend, and we defend the right of Donald Trump to attend, then we're just another normie group capitulating to the left wing, who everything they don't like is political, whereas all their politics are not are completely apolitical.
Well, we are just a normal group, aren't we?
We are, or we are not.
I believe that we are a normie group. I think that most of the people, even though they might have been upset, like my initial, when I get a bad attitude, like, it's not pretty, dude. Like I'm happy, like I'm happy that level-headed people were handling this situation in the way that they thought they could, because I would have just gave a bad name to the whole community. Then what? Then you can't do any of these things in the future. So I don't know, man.
No,
I mean,
I don't like I'm not a big fan of the language of, like, righteous indignation and fury. It's like, I don't know when that's ever solved.
I mean, I think
here's the real problem. The real problem that we have right now is that we are all fighting like a bunch of little bitches, and we could do a lot better. We're doing like this infighting stuff that I think is silly.
Well, here I am to talk to you, Jacob, and that's why I came here.
To talk to me, but you're here, Sam. You're here to
I'm
talk
here
to me.
in all of my official bomb admin regalia as a self-dispatched envoy to try and make peace with you because you're worth it and we need you back.
Sam, look, I waited for Paul to get back from vacation before I asked anything, and he doesn't want to address it. He doesn't want to have a conversation about it. He thinks it's drama. He thinks it's a waste of time, which means this community has no conversation to have about it because he is our leader. And if he refuses to be our leader, then you know what? We need a new leader. Jeff asked,
I don't know. I think maybe this is maybe it's the wisest course of action for the leader to leave it to us to figure out what we think, and then if we don't think we belong here, then we don't belong here.
Well,
I'm not what he said. That's not the response he gave, Chad. His response was, "We shouldn't be discussing this." Jeff says, "Is it a community where an Antifa member could attend?" No, because we don't allow violent extremists here. We don't allow Nazis here, and we don't allow Antifa members here. Chris says, when you make the Pope change his name, you send a signal to the rest that you're perfectly fine disassociating, which is fine, but you count me out. And that's ultimately part of it is if people who are getting attacked because they are part of our group, if we allow them to be attacked, then we're not a group. It just doesn't work. And
my feelings are a little hurt because my feelings are a little hurt because I haven't had any response from Paul at all in any of this stuff, and I'm already neurotic as it is, so I feel like, does this guy really not like me? What's the deal here? But then maybe I'm just being self-centered. I probably am. But
no. Okay, Chad, this is why we have a Christian community. In a Christian community, the person who's victimized doesn't have to assert their own. They're supposed to be saying, "Father, forgive them; they know not what they do." And everybody else is supposed to realize that person is, in fact, has been hurt. We should be noticing your hurt. We should not be demanding that you assert yourself, your being hurt. That's not what a Christian community does.
Well, I don't feel like I'm hurt. I don't feel hurt by this. I really don't.
Well, that doesn't matter, Chad.
Chad, did any of the other admins besides myself ever reach out to you and apologize?
I guess Job kind of did that, I guess. But I don't think there was an apology necessarily that was even necessarily necessary.
Sam, did you see what Dennis sent to Chad?
Probably.
I was disgusted.
People high in neuroticism are easy to disgust.
Well, I felt like an outsider from that email from the go. That's what little bothered me a little, because I thought, am I really that weird where
Dennis
I'm an outsider?
Never have sent that, Chad. Dennis, for any number of reasons, what he sent you was completely outside of the scope of his authority. It was no. Chris says, "What are you apologizing for?" This is to you, Sam. If Jacob's overreacting,
Jacob could both be overreacting and need to be apologized to at the same time. Not mutually exclusive. Claire
Yeah,
Shaw says Sam Adams
Stop
is insufferably
talking
smug,
about-
and
stop
Claire is
talking
available to be
about
our
George
leader.
Soros. Stop talking about George Soros.
Well, if he finds
George
me
Soros
unsufferable, I'll take that as a
does
compliment.
not have a room at this table, no matter how many people he pays to actually.
I really didn't think that I needed an apology. I felt like I still feel like I'd like assurance to know that I'm still like cool with Paul and shit. Because that's really what matters to me. Like Paul helped me out a lot. You guys helped me out a lot. And that's the sting came from it. Actually, the sting came a little later because like before Joey left, he gave me some privileges on the Discord to be able to, if somebody comes into a chat room and
Yeah.
start bullying somebody around, I can either mute them or get them out of the room. And that privilege was pulled away from me. I don't even know how that happened. And I'm like, well, what's wrong? Like, have I done something to give you guys the idea that I'm like this angry person that's gonna be
I was
just
not aware of
destroying
that.
shit?
Look, no. The fact is, what was going on the moderator server, it's predictable to a fault. What happened was predictable to a fault. Antifa was using the same tactics they always do. And Graham, if you want to come on, come on. But if you don't want to come on, then stop sniping with your silly comments.
I think a question that has never really been very clearly answered about Bomb is what makes something official or not. And that there's some people who think they have the authority to determine that or not. Or is this a crowdsourced thing? Like, Jacob, could you name your channel, Jacob Bomb Federecci, Bomb Drama Queen or whatever, and I could, be Bomb Transfigured or whatever. And so, one would get the impression from the way that Paul talks about the Chicago estuary that we're like perhaps the biggest main estuary, right? But we are not even on Estuary Hub, right? Nor have we ever had any direct coordination with John Van Donk to be an estuary. We're still basically the Chicagoland Jordan Peterson meetup. So I think that...
So you're telling me Paul Vanderklay is a Protestant?
I'm telling you Paul Vanderklay is a Protestant, but sometimes the people with some power try and act like they're not.
He's not only a Protestant. He's like one of these egalitarian Protestants who pretend they don't have bishops. Like at least
it
some
became official. Bridges of meeting.
You're completely droiding on us, Chad. We can't hear you.
Bogus.
Chad, you droided on us. We can't hear you.
And so I think that part of what should make this group work better is more bottom-up self-identification, which I think then means that Chad gets to call his channel what Chad wants. Because I never got any permission to hold the Chicago event. Obviously, it wasn't me alone. There were other people involved. But let's say that it was just me. We never got anybody's permission to call our event the Chicagoland meetup, Bridges of Meaning, events that we hosted, a couple months ago, right? But everyone had the impression that they were official or something like that, right? But I see your point, Chad, and I don't want to be too critical of other people, but I feel like you have a really strong point in terms of not being treated fairly in this whole situation.
Am I still roboting?
You're a little bit better.
We can hear.
I'm not. I don't even feel that indignant. I just felt a little bit outside of it. and I still feel that way a little bit because, like, again, like, I don't know, like, I got no does. I'm just like, as somebody who, like, maybe I'm delusional. I thought maybe I was like an internet friend, and I might be able to get something from him saying all is well. Am I wasting my time here? And as far as officiality goes, Bridges of Meeting became official the second they sent me that email, when it became officially Bridges of Meeting. Because Joey never once asked me ever to change my name in any capacity whatsoever. Had he done it, I would have done it like this because Joey asked me. It wouldn't have been even a question. And I didn't even question changing my name when the admins asked me. It wasn't a question of whether I was going to or not. It was a matter of, well, am I just an outsider clown and I'm only accepted when I dance like one, or am I a part of the community? And so that's all. And perhaps I'm just a sensitive little bitch. That's probably the case.
Not mutually exclusive either. Again, false dichotomies all over the place. You could be a little bit sensitive, Chad, but you could also have a point.
Look, this is how relational aggression against communities works. You pick people to pick on, and you divide the communities, and the only way to actually have a strong community is to be transparent, and that's not what's going on. The mods,
that's never been what's gone on.
What?
That's never what's gone on. It's never been transparent. We should act like it has been. Joey had full authority to do whatever Joey wanted to do, and he never had to explain himself, and rarely did. So let's not act like it's.
Click on the link and come on, please. There's a link at the top of the chat. Please come on.
Who's coming on?
I'm hoping Catherine will come on to the stream.
So I think, Jacob, the strongest point that you have to make is that, let's say that this was round one, and I still think you're way overblowing the scale of this, but I think you have fair points to make about the poor performance, even though it was such a small scale. But this won't be the first time that this happens. The bigger events that we try and have, the bigger our platform grows. It won't be the last time, right? Sorry. Yes, it won't be the last time. This will happen again. Something like it, of, a similar quality. And who knows, maybe those 3 or 4 ruffians in Germany, reported up their hierarchy, and, there's more awareness of us from Antifa than there was before. Maybe. But this will happen again, and we need to have a better response than we did last time. And I do think that there is polarization going on within our community of this was no big deal, shut up, Jacob, versus this was the biggest deal, whatever, ever. And, it completely ruined the whole thing for me, and I need to voluntarily separate as an act of self-righteousness. Jacob and Chris.
That's not what I'm doing, Sam. That's
kind of seems like it. Kind of seems like.
No, that's what it seems like. But the only way, how can I refute that?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm telling you is, I joined this community in an attempt to have a strong enough community where this type of thing would be dealt with, not in the normie manner. And I see that that's not what happened, and my concerns are being ignored. Therefore, there's no
You're acting out and being dramatic to try and get more attention.
Claire, go away.
I think that you deserve more attention than you got, but I do think
No,
you're acting out to intentionally get more attention.
No. And if I wanted more attention, I would be on the server getting attention. In fact, I wouldn't just be having just chatting streams. I would be putting out. I put out my confessing church video because I thought it was an opportunity for our community to actually move forward. And when I saw that it wasn't, I bowed out, and I had and I'm having chats with people who want to have chats about this on my channel, but this isn't really no longer, certainly not after today. It's not an attempt to affect the BOM community, because let's face it, Paul Vanderklay, he cannot lead the type of community I want to be a part of. And he proved that today. And if he wants to be the type of person who is the leader of the type of community I want to be a part of, then that's a change he needs to make. I can't change Paul.
What would you have him do? What would you have Paul do? Because I just don't see. I can't imagine Paul doing anything that you would have him do. Because
I would have Paul have a conversation about this, actually on his channel with you.
Okay. This is about a matter of powers and principalities in his mind, I would think. And for most people who are finding interest in this is more so entertainment than anything else. And I just don't see Paul ever addressing this with any seriousness. The way that he addresses it is let it go. And I think like I said in my video, I mean, that's the way he was always going to address it. I mean, there was a reason why the video that they made never got released. I don't know exactly what the reason for that is, but there's definitely some reason for it.
There is an absolute huge difference between Paul letting attacks on himself go and letting attacks on his friends go. That doesn't. You can't have a community like that.
It technically isn't an attack on me, is it?
Yeah, it was. It was an attack. No, they had complaints about you.
Yes, that's a complaint. And if anybody attacked me, all it was the admins asked me to change my channel name and image, and asking me, or not inviting me to be a part of the discussion. That's the only attacks that happened. Otherwise, I never got any complaints off YouTube or no videos flagged or anything like that.
But,
so I don't think they actually attacked me.
No. Okay, so
I gotta run, guys. I have to go pick up my daughter from school. But
Bye.
Paul or Jacob, I love you, man. We need you around. You're a good friend. I don't want to lose you as a friend. I don't want to
lose me as a friend.
Well, if you're not around as much, I won't get to see you as much, and I want to see you. I want to keep.
I'm not going to be on Bridges of Meaning. I'm going to be on my server. You're welcome to be on my server. My channel's going to be here. I'm still going to be watching the same YouTube channels. I mean, yeah.
All right, guys, I'm out too.
All right.
Good to see you, Sam. Good to see you, Jacob.
I care about you too, Chad.
Thanks.
I've met both of you in person. You're both great guys. You're interesting characters. We all have our rough edges. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. But we can't be leaving each other, else the whole thing doesn't work.
I'm looking forward to being at that next event next year. So we got to get that going, man.
All right, sounds good. All right, I gotta run.
So Jeff said PVK didn't have anything to do with the name change request, at least not that I'm aware of. That's part of the problem, Jeff. I think that's a real part of the problem. I have no problem with there being a I have no problem with there being a with Paul having a policy as to who's allowed to use the names and things that are um, associated with him. He can do that, and he should do that, right? Having control over your naming and your branding is important, but he can't have his cake and eat it too. He cannot claim that, oh, it's not up to me, I don't police it, and then have people tell Chad that he's not allowed to use the name. If Chad's not allowed to use the name, why is anybody else allowed to use the name? I hope that's clear, right? There's a ton of people watching. I mean, if people want to come on, there's a link in the chat. Catherine!
Hi, Jacob. It's really good to see you.
I hear it was
Hi, Jacob. It's really good to see you. Oh, wait. Obviously.
I am going to mute you. Okay. Hold on. Okay. You're okay. One second. Okay. You need to get headphones or something. Okay. That's a valid point. BOM probably shouldn't be used as a moniker for future events. That was a point, I mean, that was brought up. Look, if you're going to bring up a branding policy, that's great. But you can't have it both ways. And that's Paul, and I keep on calling it Protestant, but let's face it, not even all Protestants are this loosey-goosey. And I'm not even sure the CRC itself is this loosey-goosey. Paul is this loosey-goosey. No, Chris. Sam wasn't gaslighting. He was explaining how he sees things. That is how he views them. But you have to realize, and this is part of the problem, the ones of us who come into this culture, into this community from the political culture war stance, see things very differently from the people who were not involved at all in the culture war, don't want to be involved in the culture war, and think that they can, in fact, not be involved in the culture war at all. And that's what's going on with Sam. And a lot of people, including apparently almost all of the moderators. And they don't want to be involved in the culture war. They don't want to. They think that all of the things that made Jordan Peterson famous are all of the things that don't need to be dealt with. Yeah, to some extent. There is an echo chamber, which is unfortunate. Don't know what to tell you. If they didn't want to do culture war, they wouldn't be on BOM. That's not true. That's not true, Joshua. There's plenty of us who are there because we want to do the culture war right. That's why I was there. Because I want to do the culture war correctly. I wanted to see a confessing church, and I don't want to do the culture war from the Daily Wire, from Matt Walsh, from Ben Shapiro, and what's becoming increasingly clear is that I have no option. This was my option. This was my way of doing the culture war differently, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I noticed all these guys talk about your character, telling you you're being dramatic and overreacting instead of addressing what happened. Personality matters. Personality does matter. Yeah. Culture war correctly sounds like it needs a manifesto. Well, this is it. This is it. You're back.
Am I going to echo?
You're not echoing.
Yes. Oh, good. I am back. Am I going to echo?
You're not echoing. I am getting an echo somehow. But is the speaker on your computer? Oh no, you must have YouTube on. You must have YouTube. But
there.
Okay. Yeah.
That is what it was.
Yeah. Okay. So congratulations. I hear the event was amazing.
Thank you. Yes, it was way better than I thought it would be. It was fantastic. It was novel. Like, I've never put on a big event before. So that was like stressful and challenging all on its own. And I was frankly shocked that everybody loved it quite as much as they did. Because I thought it would be good, but the amount of just excitement and encouragement was like well beyond, to the point where before I did it, I was like, well, we'll do one, and maybe in a few years I would consider doing it again, because it took up so much of my time. But now I'm thinking pretty seriously, like, okay, maybe next year I'm going to have to do it again, because it was so good. So it was great. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, and hopefully, so this is the thing. If we are able to build community structures, which unfortunately, given what happened in Germany, I don't think we will be, then this could be great. And I would love to see it be great. And frankly, I mean, so about this, but few people do. I kind of have been talking with BYU and the LDS, like possibly actually having a real event sponsored by BYU, which would be beautiful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think it's gonna. If I'm doing it, it's certainly not going to be around Paul VanderKlay.
Mm-hmm. What would you do it around?
I don't even know. Look, if it's going to be a BYU event, then BYU is going to have to take the lead. And this is part of my whole Jethro hierarchy thing, right? If you're just looking to lead, like everybody's looking to lead, everybody's got an opinion. You have to find people to follow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just, for me, I was hoping that would be Paul, and like I can't change Paul, even though I do nudge and prod him. I can't change who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I just thought, if you had asked me a month before Germany, if you had told me what would happen, I would have expected anything else to happen than what did happen. I don't know if you know Michael, Catherine, Michael.
Hi, nice
Hi,
to meet
Michael.
you.
Nice to meet you.
You both did conversations with your spouses on my channel, and
Ah.
they're two of the best conversations I've had on my channel. So if you haven't watched each other's conversations, I'm pretty sure Michael's watched your conversation, and I'm sure you've been too busy to watch the conversation with Michael.
Well, honestly, with all of this stuff, I feel like just as everything was getting really busy for me, the things that we're talking about now with the Germany event and Chad and all that just started to pop up, and I was like, I don't have the attention to give this. I have to make sure the event goes well. So even I was listening, trying to get my computer set up and everything, and I was like, I am so far out of the loop on everything that's been going on that I feel like I'm playing catch up a little bit.
Unfortunately, everybody's been out of the loop. I didn't know about it until after the event, and what I keep on saying is that what should have happened, what should have been the response is, excuse me, this event is in 2 weeks. People have already started like traveling internationally. This is not a valid thing for you to do to us. Bring like random channels and YouTube comments, like, this is not valid. You really need to recognize that we are being attacked by people who are trying to hit us, right? It should have been anticipated what was going to happen. This is the type of thing that people in our community should have recognized happens a lot to people who are not woke. And Paul needs to realize, which he doesn't, that the synod vote was a clear shot across the bow that put him on the map as far as the only thing I can call it is the Purple Mafia is concerned. And look, I don't. If we investigate, maybe it wouldn't be the Purple Mafia that did this. It's not obvious who exactly did it, and I almost don't even want to look and depressed I get. But the response was not a good community response, and I doubt you've seen Paul's response to me. Let me pull that up so people can see it.
Well, while you're pulling it up, I know for our event, where we were at Urban Abbey, they've had protesters before, and they've had people come protest different events they've put on. And so we had in advance talked about, like, what are we going to do if people come in, if people come and the response we had planned was just what they had done in the past, which is you go out, talk to people, give out drinks, see if they can talk with you. The benefit for my event was that me and the venue is my brother's place, right? So we're like-minded, and we had a similar stance, so I didn't have to worry about the venue pulling.
So that's the thing. You were expecting that something like this could happen, and you had a what I would agree is the correct response. That's we, on the other hand, went, oh no, don't don't. In Germany, the response was, oh no, like, we're not actually affiliated with Chad, and like, Byrne is just one person who's speaking, like, he's not. And it was like, hello, don't you notice what you're doing in terms of unraveling our community? But this is a comment I made on Paul's video. We don't want just to watch, which was his video today on the conference, and I commented, "Are you going to address what happened in Germany or just ignore it?" And Paul's response was, "What happened in Germany was that we had a great conference, nothing more. I was there. It's unclear to know whether there was ever much threat of any pushback to begin with. Drumming up parasitic drama is a distraction." And so, I mean, if what he seems to be doing, what he seems to do is to, he's accusing me of drumming up drama. And the funny thing is, like, that's precisely what I've been like, I'm not going to make this about me. I'm not going to make myself the source of whatever conflict there is in our community. But I don't think I'm the source of it. I'm giving voice to it, voice that a lot of people would prefer would go away. But you know what? If we're not going to have a conversation about it, then there's no way we can learn from it. And I mean, you saw that comment. What did you think? And hello, Job. It's nice to have you.
Hi, Job. Yeah, so like for you, it feels more like you're waving a flag and saying, hey, there was an issue here. Do we think this was the ideal response? Is this how we plan to move forward in the future?
Well, okay. I certainly have. I think the response was wrong, and I have how I think the response should have been handled, and I have what I think is the correct way for us to, in retrospect, heal the damage of what happened. What I am hearing is there was no damage. You're causing damage.
I think what I find hard is that there's so many different people from different places, like literally different cultures, different. And so it's hard to have like a single, like, because everything is still so ground up, right? It's like you're going to have different people who have different ways of reacting and anticipating, and some of those things will be good and some of them won't. And so the approaches that don't work will just die off. And hopefully what will happen is there's been a couple of events now, but I'm hoping there'll be like a dozen more events. And some of them will be
who gets to decide whether what these events are, what they are called, where they're advertised, who is leading? We're being way too Protestant here, and we're not just Protestant. We're being Baptist.
Yeah.
We're being very, very Baptist.
It's a good question, because there is no, like, my event was just like completely disconnected, right? I invited all the people in our circles, but it's not like a Bridges of Meaning something. Like the Bridges of Meaning Festival was like, it used like the phrase. But we don't, I mean, who owns that? I don't think anybody owns that.
Well, that's what happened. So did you hear what happened with Chad?
I heard that he, because it was the Bridges of Meaning Hub. Oh, I got an echo again. Is that me?
No, there's a sound when somebody joins.
Okay. He was the Bridges of Meaning Hub, and it was the Bridges of Meaning Festival. So they, from what I remember, I have not followed closely, I think they asked him to change the name of the channel to create some distance between those things.
Yeah. Michael, you're actually the one echoing.
All right.
So yeah, that's precisely what happened. And if there's nobody controlling the name Bridges of Meaning, then that's not something okay to do. And if there is somebody controlling the name Bridges of Meaning, then we need to know who's doing that controlling.
Mhm.
And apparently we don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like we need to either have somebody making decisions and controlling it, or say just nobody. It's for the Discord, but we don't want anybody else to use it for anything at all. Or just say open, it's open, and we make a disclaimer somewhere saying that this is an open community with no leadership and only vague connection with one another, or something where we say either we have leadership or we don't, like one or the other.
We need some form of constitution. We need some form of form and actual relationship between us. And the only way that's actually going to form and coagulate is if we have to have discussion. And well, this is Paul's reaction to having discussion. And if that's going to be the reaction to the discussion, then I guess there's no point here. Joshua, I don't quite understand what you mean about seeing things remotely. There's definitely some sort of culture clash going on as far as Germany, but honestly, that was part of what made me so upset, because I thought that Germans, more than most, would realize the threat that we are under of repeating the precise things that happened in the Weimar Republic. And I hate to pull the Jewish card, but I will. The Holocaust looms large in my thinking, and what I will not accept is completely ignoring the lessons of the Holocaust. That's just not acceptable to me. Vengeance, I have no idea who you are. If you have questions, please put them into the chat. We will. This is an attempt of having a chat, although I do have to say I will personally have to go in a little while because I am at work, but I can leave this chat running with whoever's speaking. Well, I have at least half an hour. Yosef says, it does feel like BOM is going through a transition right now. The cords are loosening, but it may need to dissolve in order to be refocused and revivified. Thunder Bay potentially has that power. One thing I would not be able to say if Pajot and Paul Vanderklay had not said them themselves first is the life of the church is to be crucified and resurrected, and maybe that is in fact how this works. This community needs to die in some sense and be reborn. But sorry, I believe in a future resurrection. I'm not the person to be talking about Easter here. So,
hey, Jacob, you still off the server?
yeah, and I think it's pretty much permanent.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Paul's response today kind of made it sound like, yeah, there's no point in me going back.
That was today. Where was that response on this last video?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I get that if that's the response. Sorry, man. Yeah. I wish things had happened differently. I've done a lot of thinking since, and yeah. We should have left Chad to do his business. At least, I speak for myself alone there, but I don't think in any situation should things have been requested of him. And I am particularly myself repentant on how it made him feel and that he was concerned about being banned, as he said to me.
The letter that Dennis sent to Chad, which Dennis refuses to make public, and Chad also doesn't make public because Dennis requested it, which I think was a completely unacceptable request to include in that letter anyway. Look, I don't want to criticize Dennis because it's not about Dennis. That letter should never have been sent. And the fact that that letter was sent in the form that it was sent means there needs to be things changed. And again, Paul's response was, "There's nothing that needs to be done. Everything's fine. Nothing's happened. You're just bringing up drama." It's
well,
like, come on.
I think this is the part where these types of conversations should be had, in my view. I mean, there is the part of, well, you're a one organization, let's say Bridges of Meaning, dealing with another organization, event venue, and to that degree, that question had to be asked, like, hey, what are we? And are we just a loose collective of individuals, or are we something else? And, maybe that conversation has been had in its entirety. I'm not sure. I haven't been there in a while. I left and I'm busy packing letters to my elder constituents. But yeah, I don't think this. Look, at some point, Peterson says, leave everything out of the realm of the unspeakable, or don't hide things in the fog. I think the more this goes on, the longer this goes on, the more that feeling will be there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, Sam says you and PVK should have a convo on the right way to culture war. Look, I'm willing to have that conversation. I've been willing to have conversations with Paul several times. I keep on talking to him. It's Paul's show. It doesn't need to be with me. He could be having this conversation with Job. He could be having it with Chad. He could be having it with any number of people. And again, this isn't about me. I'm just the person who's like, if this is how you're going to behave, I'm not going to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not. Mm-hmm. And I'm the fact people are paying so much attention to what I'm saying, and there's lots of people paying attention. This stream is one of the most popular streams I've ever had. Is the fact that I think I'm voicing a concern of a lot of people, and I'm sorry, like just silently ignoring the silent majority. That is exactly why I think, we have things bubbling under that if they are not given voice to and their concerns do not actually get addressed, we're headed towards civil war. I'm sorry. I know people think I sound like a madman, but I've studied enough to realize this is how you get a civil war.
So I think that people are interested because you're voicing those specific concerns. And I also think it's because I think there is an identity crisis going on right now in the community, right? Because you essentially have two options for to answer the question, what is Bridges of Meaning? Well, it felt like before it was very much just sort of like a landing pad. It's just a courtyard and everybody can come in and we can see who else is there. And then there's different doors to go to different places. And that was kind of all it was. But now Bridges of Meaning is more than just that. It appears to have its own culture and even the way you talk about it, Jacob, right? It's like what are we doing? We are a thing, which means in some sense, part of what we are has become something behind one of those doors. its own group of connection and care, and it's more than just the courtyard. Because if it was just the courtyard, anybody can do anything or say anything beyond like something you'd have to get the law involved for, right? So it's become that. But the question, I think, is, are we going to actually let it manifest that in some way? Which, if we went the route that I think you're proposing, which is to have some leadership, then all of a sudden it would become in a more clear way, because what I'm hearing you say is it already is, we just don't have the leader. But it would become in a more clear way one of those things behind the door. And I take your call has been, hey, Protestants, seems like maybe you need to resurrect your church, and maybe this is one of those ways that could be happening. But then that gets very tricky, because a lot of the people within Bridges of Meaning wouldn't want to be in even a very loosely defined Protestant church. So I think part of the problem is, like, what are we doing? What are we? And letting, like, walking back from it and just saying, we don't know what we are, it'll just happen, was the right answer for a long time because it was growing. And I think it's not the right answer anymore. And we have to say what it is, but who gets to say what it is?
Jesus take the wheel on a lot of people's part. And I think, I mean, I see it. It's Calvinism. It's theological nihilism. It's this idea that, oh, you know, the Holy Spirit will take care of it. And I'm sorry, that's not good enough.
Well, I will say, I completely agree with you. And I can tell you two things for why that's actually, like, legitimately true. One, my conference, that was part of the answer to that. Like, I believe that what we need is not maybe in addition to, but we also need places and physical instantiations of real life people coming together. So, and it can't just be just the courtyard. Now, I tried to make a conference that was a physical, like, particular visions coming together, but I agree with you, and that's one evidence that I actually do. And the other one is, there's been some push within the leadership on the server to say we need to say what we're doing and who we are, and we need to have something more substantial, because what it is isn't working. So that conversation is very much on the front burner, and was prompted by a lot of this stuff. You know, I saw it come up and I was like, we need to talk about this. Joey's gone. We need to have this conversation. But I have not been able to devote energy or time to actually get everybody on a screen and figuring it out. So that's me saying, I think you're right. And I'm not like saying, but we don't have an answer, like, oh, we never will. But, like, just give us a little time. Like, give me a little time. Because I think if we don't answer this, it will just all blow apart. Like, it can't help it. There's enough pressure that's been coming, and it has to, like, coalesce into something. My preference would be to figure out some way where we can have a courtyard, because it's been so valuable. We want that space where everybody can come in, but then it seems like something else has coalesced, and that needs to become more articulate. And I don't think that I am the person to be the one who defines that. I'd like to have a voice in it, but there is something else there that needs to be able to say things like,
I have to say, Catherine, you seem to be the person who, like, Joe won't do it. Joey was, I don't think people recognized what a gem and foundation stone Joey was until we lost him. And, you know, it's a lot of work. And honestly, it's ultimately full-time work. Jeff won't do it. I mean, and I can't do it. And it's, yeah, Catherine, you're looks like you're it.
Oh gosh. I'll just quit my day job and tell my kids to move out. But
I don't know who Jane Lee is.
Hi, Jane Lee. um, yeah, I certainly don't. I certainly don't want to let the moment go by, because you're putting your finger exactly on the fact that we need a clear identity. But I'm not ready to land yet on what that is, because I'm only one person in the collection, right? Like really, like within the group, and so yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to say on that, except just it is a serious agenda point for me to get that figured out soon. So I don't know. I'm sad to hear that you're off, and I completely understand why. But I will miss having you around. But that just means I will frequent your channel more. And
Well, you're welcome on my Discord server.
I need to join it. Is there a link to it on the description here?
There should be. There isn't. I will send you a personal invite, since you are one of my favorite people. Wrong Catherine. Hold on. Where's Catherine? Why don't I have you, Catherine? You know what? I am actually going to do the thing where I'm going to make this about me, and I'm going to put a link to my Discord server into the chat.
And everyone should like and subscribe if they haven't already.
And everybody should like and subscribe. Okay, so there's a link to the Discord server in the chat if anybody wants to join my Discord server. But yeah, I mean, look, ultimately, I think what would be best is if the big names in this corner of the internet, which, Jonathan Pajot, Paul Vanderklay, John Vervaeke, maybe a few other people, needs to be perfectly honest, I think they need to hire a full-time server administrator for an actual server that's, and like, I think I mean, if they were to take up a collection for it, I think the money would be there.
But let me push back a bit on that, Jacob. How do you think that would have prevented the situation that Bridges of Meaning is in?
I think if you had a full-time person who's look, if Joey was still on the job, this wouldn't have happened. And
I don't know how involved. Well, I don't know. That's a leap, man.
I don't think so. I don't think Joey would have ever written that letter to Chad.
Fair enough.
I missed a bit there, but is there a central? What is the central unifying thought that would underlie making a decision about how to protest what happened or how to deal with it? Because it's not an explicitly Christian group. So what is the ideal? I think if it's inspired by Jordan Peterson, you could say it's free speech or something like that. But
I just listened to Nathan's latest video, and apparently it's a cult. I don't know. So maybe it's for the best.
Sam keeps on telling me I underestimate Jesus' driving abilities.
Well, I think that means that Jacob just asked me to be a cult leader, which no one's asked me to be before, so I need to consider that more carefully.
It comes with cool hats.
There might be some perks.
Yeah. An interesting dress codes usually.
Oh, by the way, Friendly Muslim is the Muslim guy I'm trying to get more involved in our community. So you guys should all go to his channel and subscribe, because he doesn't have enough subscribers. I mean, look, if we had principles of community, those principles of community would have rules as to what is acceptable use of any name that we have, and what and clear lines of authority. And so, I mean, I have to go back to the person who I believe did things most correct, which is the Rebbe of Lubavitch. And even though he died in 1994, he trademarked the name Chabad, and he enforced that trademark. And you are not able to call yourself Chabad, and they still enforce it today, because he left a structure which said, this is who we are, this is who we're not. And I mean, in every large Jewish neighborhood, there's at least one Chai Center, or Menachem Mendel Institute or something like that, that can't call its name Chabad but would want to. And many of them were forced to stop calling themselves Chabad because there is some sort of formation. We are a community that, I can't just open up a synagogue and call it a Chabad. And that's important. And you know what? You can't open up a synagogue and call it a Christian Reformed church, because the CRC does the same thing. And you can't go around calling yourself a Roman Catholic church without, and because in order to include, you have to exclude. And you have to start by excluding the Unitarians.
So, I completely agree that we are at a point where, especially now that there's, it's a more mature community, right? It makes it sound like we're all old, but it's not something that's only been around for a little while, and it's starting to manifest in the real world. And now that that's happening, it has to have more structure. It can't just be in its most nascent form. So I agree. We have to do something about it. I'm all on board.
Any more comments before I end the stream, before it takes way too long? We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Are we done speaking for now?
I think I'm good. I
Everybody
gotta
should
go.
subscribe to my channel too.
Yeah, subscribe to Michael Sartori's channel. He's a Trinitarian. God forgive him.
Good seeing you folks. Either way.
You too.
Talk to you guys later.
Bye-bye.
Bye, people.